something top secret. You might have a folder that says Zach Rigsby, one of our other fantastic pharmacists. We had so many people come out at the Y that you might have a folder that has Zach's name on it. You are welcome to email Zach with questions. You can also email me. Again, my name is Elise, so if you have questions, you can email me at Elise, E-L-I-S, like Sam, at Brashear's Pharmacy, or Zach. Both of us are perfectly lovely, and we'll email you back with questions. So today's topic is the new game plan. I'm really excited about this topic because it will go through kind of those things that we need to think about ahead of time with diabetes. So there's going to be a little bit on diet. There's going to be a little bit on travel. There's going to be a little bit on those sick days, which I think this is a great month to kind of hit that because we're about to go into flu season and all that fun stuff. So we will talk about what you need to have on hand for a sick day. You can interrupt me with questions. Come on in, have a seat. I'm glad to see you. There's a couple chairs over here too, so feel free to sit anywhere that is comfortable for you.
Okay.
We're just getting started, so you haven't missed a thing.
Okay, good deal.
Feel free to interrupt me with questions, by the way. You can raise your hand, you can shout out. If you have something that you want to email me later that's a little more personal, feel free to email me or stop me after class and we can talk about it. This is actually a national curriculum that we go through, so pharmacies all across the country are going through this same material. And one of the things that we're going to hit on every month is something called the basic truth. And I think that's important to talk about so that if you are the patient with diabetes or you're the caregiver, you have a good understanding of what are the essentials of diabetes. First things first, two main types of diabetes, type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. If you're older, you may recognize these more as juvenile onset diabetes and adult onset diabetes is what we would have called these in the past. Why the name change? Juvenile diabetes is what we now call type 1 diabetes. We had to change the name though because our children are now really developing type 2 diabetes. Our children, I read a statistic just this morning, 1 in 3 children are overweight at this point in the country. So their diabetes that they are now developing is actually type 2 diabetes, or what we used to call adult onset diabetes. The main difference between the two, type 1 diabetes, these are people who are making little to no insulin. A variety of different reasons for that. Either their pancreas has stopped working, either due to a virus, or some people think maybe an autoimmune component to that. But in any case, they're basically not making any insulin. So this is what we used to also call people who are insulin-dependent diabetics. And then type 2 diabetics, that's going to be the majority of us. We're still making insulin, a couple of different components in that, so hard to say exactly where you would fall, just kind of talking about it. One would be you're making enough insulin, but your body has actually become resistant to insulin. That's a possibility. You may have too much mass for the amount of insulin that you're making. So in other words, you're still making a normal amount of insulin, but it's not enough for your body size. They're just kind of two ways you can have type 2 diabetes. Blood sugar goals. This is also just kind of an essential truth that we'll breeze through real quickly. Diabetes is really unique in that when we talk about a lot of conditions, there are solid goals. Like if you have high blood pressure, most of us know 120/80 is the blood pressure standard, right? 120/80. It's solid, it's defined. With diabetes, it gets a little bit trickier, and these are more ranges and more patient specific. I've already talked to some people this morning and said, why is that? If you are one of our younger patients, like let's say you're diagnosed while you were a teenager, you may be looking at having diabetes for 60 years, 70 years. So we're going to want to try and maybe treat you a little more strict so that you are less likely to have complications later. Whereas if you're diagnosed when you're older, as we get older, we're more sensitive to low blood sugar. We're more sensitive to strict treatment. It makes us feel bad, So 70 to 130 is kind of like a range here. Your doctor might have said 80 to 120. Your doctor might have said 90 to 130 is a good range. But in any case, it should be close to this. Those numbers should at least be somewhat familiar to you. And then 2 hours after a meal, we're looking for less than 180. That second number, there's not too much wiggle room there. I can't get you really less than 200, sorry. It needs to stay less than 180. I think I mentioned that this curriculum that we're going through is a nationally done curriculum. It's done in pharmacies all across the country. But one thing that I like about it is you will very rarely hear me actually talk about medication. When we talk about treating diabetes, we talk about this kind of three-legged stool approach. And you'll see on here, you'll see diet, you'll see medication, and you'll see exercise. And what you'll notice here is that two of those stools are completely controlled by you guys. You have complete control over your diet, complete control over your exercise. So actually when you come here, a lot of times that's what you'll hear me talk about, because those are things that you can change. Yes, we have a conversation with our physicians and our pharmacists about medications, but for the most part, they're doing kind of that decision making for you. So even today, we'll talk about diet and we'll talk about exercise and we'll talk about things that you can plan for at home. Very little discussion about medication. So here's what we're actually going to talk about today, and I've kind of already mentioned this. We're going to talk about how do you make a SMART goal? What is a SMART goal? What is a good goal? What does that look like? It's going to talk about weight loss. We're going to talk about, exercise, like I already mentioned. And then we're going to talk about the new game plan. How are we going to make a plan for traveling? How are we going to make a plan for sick days? What's our plan going to be in an emergency type basis? And then first off, we're also going to talk a little bit about, I know we've got spouses here, we've got caregivers here. We're going to talk a little about what does it look like to take care of you as a caregiver? How do we prevent diabetes? That's going to be kind of first and foremost. So first off, we're going to talk about, and this actually even applies to you if you have diabetes, right? Exercise. 30 minutes, 5 days a week is the goal. I have good news about that. Just this past year, a study was done looking at, does it have to be 30 minutes all at once? And the study said, no. It's just as effective to break that up into smaller increments and get that 30 minutes in during the day as it is to do 30 minutes all at once. I think that's fabulous. 30 minutes, if you're not somebody who's regularly exercising, 30 minutes is really hard to kind of just jump in there to get that 30 minutes. I am thrilled to say start with 10 minutes and work your way there, and that's just as effective. That's great news. And then of course we're going to talk a little bit about diet. So we're going to talk about, cutting out empty calories, reducing the amount of sugar, and just eating food that is nutritious for our bodies. And whether you are pre-diabetic, whether you are the caregiver, or whether you are the actual diabetic, all of those tips and tricks are going to be good for us to know. If you're talking either for preventing diabetes or if you are already the diabetic, why are we doing this? We really need to talk about, if we're going to make lifestyle changes, why are we making them? Who are we making them for? Who do you want to do it for? I know a lot of us have grandkids or older adult children here in the room, so I would like to point out to you, keep them in mind. Add that to your list of who do you want to do it for, and make it a dialogue. I've already mentioned 1 in 3 children that are overweight. Keep that a dialogue with your grandkids. Let them know, hey, Momo's taking a salad here because I have diabetes and I'm trying to watch my blood sugar. Keep it an open conversation with them. Otherwise, this is just going to continue to spiral out of control from generation to generation. And if you're the older ones, mentor those younger ones and help them learn how to make good food choices as you guys learn about it. And again, let that be your motivation. Whether it's for your spouse, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for your grandchildren, remind yourself frequently, this is why I'm doing this. We're going to start out with how do we set what we're going to call a SMART goal. You could sit here and say, oh, I'm going to lose weight. But that doesn't really fall under our category of what a SMART goal is. A SMART goal has these characteristics. It is specific, it is measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And all of those components are actually important to setting a goal. I'm going to pick on weight loss because it's easy and it's relevant, but if you wanted to read more books, you could apply this same thing to reading more books. I would like to read 1 more book each month. It has to be a realistic goal with a timeline to it in order for you to be able to measure your results yourself. If I said, oh, I'm just going to read more books this year, that doesn't, it doesn't have a solid component to it. But it also has to be achievable. I have 3 small children at home. I can't say, I'm going to read 50 books this month, because that would just be not achievable for me. So we need it to be achievable and realistic. So we're going to jump into this looking at weight loss. And I have good news about weight loss too. 5 to 10% weight loss will make a difference in your blood sugar readings. It will make a difference in your cholesterol values if you're looking at lowering cholesterol. And 5 to 10% is actually more achievable than most of us think. I'm going to cheat a little here on the math to make it easy, since we tend to rely on our calculators. So 10% is easy math. If you're 240 pounds, we're going to move that decimal over when I say 24 pounds. Right? We all got that math. Now I'm going to get to 5% just by cutting that in half and say 12 pounds. So for this person, if you're 240 pounds, just 12 pounds, 5%, that gets you something. You will see results with just 5%. So I want everybody to kind of take a look. If you want to lose weight, if that's one of your goals, just kind of take a second to figure out, what's your 10%, what's your 5%, 7% is going to be somewhere in the middle, obviously. But 5 and 10 is easy math. And talk about how are we going to get there. We're going to talk a little about healthy diet, and we're going to talk a little bit about eating out, and we're going to talk a little bit about eating at home. When you make your goal here, whether you decide, by the way, to do 5%, which is a more realistic goal, keep in mind that time frame. You've got to really tack that on there to be able to measure it. I had somebody ask me earlier today, what is 1 pound really 3,500 calories? And it really isn't. It's really hard to cut that out, which is why I think when we talk about realistic goals, we often hear, losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, that's a healthy weight loss. I would like to encourage you, 2 pounds a week is very difficult to do. And so we tend to get discouraged. We want quick results. We want to be able to say, I lost 2 pounds this week. If you are making a realistic goal, I would particularly encourage you to maybe look at half a pound a week or 1 pound a week. Even 1 pound a week, when you really sit down and crunch the numbers, is 500 calorie deficit a day. That's really hard. It is very hard. But I think most of us can get half a pound, and when you keep that in mind, that half a pound is success, you'll feel a little better about it.
Question.
Sure.
You said the 500 calories. Okay. You have to sort of find out what it takes to maintain it, right?
Right. So if you've lost that pound, what it takes to maintain it. Yeah, did you mention Weight Watchers earlier?
No, I was in my Fitness Pal.
My Fitness Pal. I like My Fitness Pal. I also like Weight Watchers. The one thing that Weight Watchers has going for it above everybody else is once you achieve your weight loss, they'll tell you what you have to do to maintain it.
Yeah.
And I do like that component of it. I think My Fitness Pal will too, but I've never gotten to the maintain component. I'm still stuck on the weight loss component.
Well, you have to go in and change the settings to know weight loss and what you're at.
Right, to maintain. Yeah.
Because it tells you how many calories you have to you can eat. But I had a friend that got me to it, and he suggested, well, before you even do that, put it in for a couple of weeks to find out what your average is a day. Okay, and I was averaging like 4,400 calories a day.
Right.
But it's only allowing me 2,200 a day to lose a pound. So,
Right,
because I wasn't taking the exercise into account, but, so you just can't say, okay, I'm going to cut out 500 calories, but you don't know what you should be cutting it from, is what I was getting at.
Oh, right.
So you sort of need to know what you're eating, what your body needs, so you know how far above that you are. Because if you're still 1,000 calories over what you should be,
right,
and you only take 500, you may not lose weight, and then you really get PO'd.
Right, that's true. That's true.
So,
And it certainly
sorry.
feels like that. No, you're absolutely right. So what you're saying is, you need to have a baseline
Yeah,
calorie count for maintenance. Because if you're eating over, your trajectory is already that you're going up. So if you're somebody who already kind of knows where you are to be steady, then we're going to take 500 calories to go
Well,
down.
even where you are now, if you're steady where you are now, but you want to get to lose weight, you need to know what you're taking in.
Right, right.
You know,
Right.
so.
Yep, absolutely. Here's a plan for a healthy diet. Thank you for adding all that in. I think MyFitnessPal, he's mentioned a couple times. I'm actually going to mention it in a little bit because I actually really do like the app. Plan for a healthy diet here, though. So if we take a look and kind of think of a plate here, what should a healthy plate look like? And the recommendation is going to be take your plate and divide it in half. Half of that should be a non-starchy vegetable. And I just love it when we say things like non-starchy vegetable and we don't talk about what that is. Yeah, because we've never thought about it or even what's a starch, what's a non-starch. My tip for saying and remembering what is a starchy vegetable, if you put it in water and let it soak in water and it turns the water cloudy, that is a starchy vegetable. So our beans that we're going to talk about down here, beans would be a starchy vegetable, corn would be a starchy vegetable, those types of products. Potatoes, if you put potatoes and it turns your water cloudy, it's starchy. So when we say a non-starchy vegetable, we're talking about all those other things, the broccoli, the kale, all those types of vegetables that are not starch. Should be half of your plate. And of course that's what we're talking about here. Eat your greens. Try beans. Beans really are super nutritious and inexpensive, but when you think about that plate, so you've got half that's a vegetable, we're going to divide it into a quarter more. A starchy vegetable or a starchy product gets to be a quarter, and then the other quarter is going to be a protein. And then they talk about in here, remember, portion size. Gosh, if I took my own advice, this would just make life so much easier. For me, and you think about protein, I always want to eat a steak that's about the size of 3 of my fists. And when you go out to dinner and you order steak, that's what you get. You get this nice big old ribeye. But really, when we're talking about portion size, we're going to talk about, for your meat or your fish, a deck of cards, or a quick visual reminder is your fist size is really a serving of protein. So we need to keep that in mind. That is one of the things that I do really like about MyFitnessPal. If you've ever used that app, it is free, it is extremely helpful. If you were to just track everything that you ate for 1 week, it would be very eye-opening. Like you mentioned earlier, Eileen, about the watermelon. You know, if you just look at these things for 1 week, it really changes the way you look at your food if you look it up. MyFitnessPal will let you go in. It will let you track what you eat. It doesn't have to have a barcode. You can type watermelon in and it will pull it up. So I know a lot of us have those old carb counting books. You know, you say, oh, how do I pull that out of a drawer? MyFitnessPal, or really anywhere on the internet, you can just pull it up instantaneously. Very nice. MyFitnessPal does have the scanner, so you can, if you want to log breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you're eating like a granola bar or something, you just zap it in there. It makes nice graphs. If you're a graph person, it will show you, you know, I ate this much in carbs and this much in fat. And it will track weight loss too. I like my little weight loss graph. So just kind of depending on, some people really need that reinforcement, and MyFitnessPal will give it to you. It will prompt you to log your food if you're in that process of food logging and really looking at it. If you miss logging it, it'll push you a notification.
Yeah, it sends you an email, tells you.
Yeah.
But it does the opposite too. It sends you emails. Oh, he's logged in for 25 straight days.
Yes. Yes.
You know, so it gives you encouragement that way too. So
it will give you lots of reinforcement, and I really like the app for all those different reasons. And it's free, guys, totally free. So we kind of hit a lot of what's on the screen for eating a healthy diet already. We talked about our fruits or vegetables. Healthy fats, so we're talking about, you know, that olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. And of course we want to cut out foods high in salt, high in added sugar. This cholesterol portion, hey, I know why things are confusing. Things are always in flux. Are eggs good or eggs bad? I don't know. This actually is in flux even as we speak. The cholesterol guidelines for diet. I don't know if you guys remember, it's been about 10 years now. Everything went to low fat. Remember that? Everything, all of a sudden, low fat. That was a dietary recommendation. Just this year, this is undergoing kind of some modification. The reason is, well, we said 10 years ago, low fat, that's going to fix our cardiovascular issues. It's going to cut down on heart attacks. It's going to cut down on strokes. Now that 10 years have gone by, we can say, that didn't work. We have more heart attacks and more strokes than ever. And actually, now that we're kind of looking at this 10 years out, we're actually saying it is the component that is causing all these cardiovascular issues. So I expect those modified guidelines to come out later this year, and they will say the cholesterol component is not as essential as we thought, and it's going to be the sugar component that we're really going to
Triglycerides.
those triglycerides are tricky.
Well, because they're both fat and diabetes.
Yeah. We will see a major emphasis by the end of the year on sugar, which you guys already know. You're already looking at it, so you're kind of one step ahead of the game, but everybody else is going to be playing catch up. And my expectation with that guideline that's going to come out is for the first time ever, there will actually be a daily sugar recommendation, which sounds kind of counterintuitive. You mean there's not one now? There's not. There's not a recommendation for a daily sugar intake. Yeah, wild, right? But for the first time ever, I'm expecting to see that by the end of the year. So keep that in mind.
Well, and the other thing, Elise, is people will say, oh, I don't eat sugar. But it's what's in your foods. You know, that counts too.
It is. Yep, it absolutely does. And I've mentioned this in class before. If you're going to do the MyFitnessPal thing, or you want to start tracking for a week, you're reading those food labels, goes right along with it. I would say you might be shocked if you picked up 2 peanut butters and you think about what should be in peanut butter. Well, peanuts and salt.
Yeah.
Peanuts and salt. It's not. There's a couple of them out there. I have one that's just peanuts and salt, but when you flip them over, it's peanuts, sugar, salt, usually palm oil, and some of them will even have a 5th ingredient behind that. So I would definitely encourage you to read your labels, be aware of what's in your food, and if you think you're not eating sugar, read your peanut butter and make sure. You might be surprised. You might be surprised. The easiest place to start with changing your diet is going to be at home. We're going to talk about home and travel, eating out. Most of us eat out at least once or twice a week, so we're going to make a plan for eating out. But at home, some quick, easy tips. I like the one, use herbs and seasoning to add flavor, instead of using butter to cook in. That might be an easy place for you to make a change. And again, remember our SMART goals. Pick something realistic, pick something that will work for you, and go in steps. Doing a whole bunch of changes all at once usually is not going to be it's usually not going to be achievable. So let's be achievable and realistic. So pick one that might work for you. Prepare your meals in advance, have a plan, have fruit for dessert sometime. That's a very European thing. Everybody in Europe eats fruit for dessert. They don't eat cheesecake for dessert, it's fruit. Consider making that change a couple times a week if you're a dessert person. I am always jealous of the people out here in the audience. If you are still drinking soda or juice, I am jealous because you have an easy out here. Here's your change. Just cut out that soda, just cut out that juice, and you will see the pounds start to come off that first week. The other thing I like about MyFitnessPal is you can start tracking changes and areas that you can actually say, oh, that's something I could change. See my coffee cup here, guys? That's my coffee cup. I use MyFitnessPal for a week. I drink 200 calories a day in creamer.
Whoa.
I know, but I know that because I tracked it. Otherwise, it's just creamer that I'm adding to my coffee. So one of these days, you guys are going to come in, my coffee's going to be black. I'm getting there. But I make that point to say, if you track it and you write it down, you might be surprised where you could make a change. And it might be as simple as, maybe I could cut my creamer in half and then a quarter. I'll get there. one of these days. I need to set a timeline on it, right? So grocery shopping, I saw a cartoon this past week that said I went to the grocery store hungry and now I own aisle 4. Yeah, it's true, and it's actually on here. Don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. Sometimes we can't avoid it, but it is true. If you can make a plan to go grocery shopping not around mealtime, that is a great, quick, simple change that you can make.
How can you not be hungry? I mean, me. You ask, I could eat a whole pizza, and on my way to sit in the chair, I'll go in the refrigerator and pull out and eat the equivalent of another mango and a half that I've cut up fresh. I mean, I don't, my body doesn't tell me when I'm full.
Yeah, that is that is tough. At least for the grocery store, I would say at least try to plan on going after you've had a meal. I very frequently make the pitfall of saying, if I go to the grocery store now, I'm going to stop and get lunch on the way. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, and I go to the grocery store without lunch. And that's where the real trouble is, for me at least. Try and go after a meal. But I definitely understand what you're saying there. This last one here. You know, all these are good tips. Sometimes they're hard to put into practice. If you leave here today, there's a lot of information here. Pick one thing that maybe you want to change after you come here today. For me, my high calorie food that tempts me is ice cream. If I don't walk down the ice cream aisle, I don't buy the ice cream. So that's a legitimate tip. You know, if your weakness is pretzels, don't walk down the chip aisle. Easy to say, hard to do, but something to think about. Once we have a modification in our behavior, once we change our behavior, it will start to become a habit, but it's just making that initial change.
One of the things you might do if you're an ice cream lover like yourself, I've stopped buying, well, what used to be a half gallon. So now buy the portion control Dixie cups or what have you, so I'll eat one.
I have
2,
seen,
3,
yeah.
4.
That's my problem. I usually want to, but
And then
that
put
is
them in a
great-
bowl
yeah.
with peanut butter and strawberry preserves and and then I go and you put it in Fitness Pal and you just add 1,400 calories.
I do a lot of portion control bags, but I can't control him from taking more than one portion. So it's defeating for me, and it's very difficult to support when, to me, he's fighting the support. He won't take just one.
And I feel she won't stop buying the ice cream, but then it's not fair to her. She can for whatever reason.
Yeah, the struggles are real. I don't want to stand up here and make it sound like these things are easy. They're not. The struggle is very hard.
You sound like our household also.
Yeah.
My husband's the diabetic. But in answer to your question, I thought I read somewhere that wait 20 minutes after you have a meal, and your brain
That's
catches
when
up
you're
with
right.
your, what you're eating and says you're full. You know?
Well,
That doesn't work.
That
Not
clock of mine, I
I know.
broke the spring so long ago.
You and my husband,
Yeah,
yeah.
that doesn't work.
Well, I'm gonna go sit down, I'm having dinner, so I don't have to get up again. Let's check the refrigerator and see what I can take to the other room while I'm watching TV.
Yeah.
I said, wait, are you really hungry? You had like that whole pizza or 4 slices or whatever. You know, like, wait, are you hungry? It's almost like it's an insult to what I've already made for dinner.
Yes.
Isn't it enough?
And it's also true that we very frequently mistake dehydration for hunger.
True.
So it is a very common recommendation to see if you think you're hungry, drink some water first and see if that's
Before your meal, perhaps.
right, or before your trip to the grocery store. Eating out, all of these are, I know you guys have heard these before, so I hate to rehash them, but it's important to think about. And what I would say with eating out, most of us eat out at the same places. We're creatures of habit. You know, if your place is Applebee's or Outback or Wendy's or Panera, you know, wherever your place is that you find yourself going, have a plan for what you're going to order there. look at those menus, just pick two meals that you know fit within your dietary guidelines, and just order those every time. Sometimes I find it helpful to even say, I don't even need a menu, because when you look at the menu, then you want the other things on the menu. Just say you don't want a menu. I know people get uptight making special recommendations or special requests at a restaurant sometimes. I have really found that most of the time, they don't mind. I have gone into places and not seen a thing on the menu that I thought would fit what I wanted for my diet, and I said, hey, you've got broccoli, you've got chicken, can you do me a grilled chicken and broccoli plain? It's not on the menu, but they are happy to do it. They want your business, they want you to be happy, they want that Facebook plug, hey, I went out to such and such and they accommodated me. So don't be afraid to order off the menu. Don't be afraid to say, hey, can you steam my vegetables instead of putting them in butter? And they'll do it for you.
Well, one thing she's got me doing is we'll go places. Well, first off, we try to go late lunch, so you get the lunch menu. You know, it's cheaper, it's a little smaller portion, but places that have the salad bar, we'll add the salad bar and tell them just to box the meal up, and we take that home and have that the next day. And so she gets me at least filling up on a salad, you know, as long as I stay away from the mixed salad, the potatoes, macaroni, and all those. You know, but that's what she's got me doing now. So, you know, that helps a little. I've stabilized. You know, I was still going up at 270, and now I've stabilized at 270. So I need to
get that graph going.
Well, and I know if I get it to 250, like you say, my sugar, my cholesterol, all that stuff changes dramatically, like 10, 15 pounds when you're, you know, plus it'll help my golf swing. But.
There you go. That's what you wrote on that page. I'm doing it for my golf buddies. There you go. That's a great suggestion. Another thing I think is actually on here.
Share a meal.
Share a meal, or if you go out to dinner, ask them to cut it in half before they even bring it to you. They will, if you say, hey, put half in a to-go box, don't even bring it to me, they're happy to do that too.
There was a gentleman last month who spoke about using applesauce on his salad dressing. I don't know what applesauce he's using, but there's a lot of sugar in there.
You can
taco sauce.
Oh,
You
Mott's
talked
has got a
about
good one that's
taco
low on
Yes,
sugar.
you have to look
taco
for it.
sauce
There is
to me.
unsweetened applesauce. I mean, yes, it's apples. You're gonna get carbs from it. You're gonna get carbs from it.
Look high on the shelves.
High,
High and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
I know.
Because I was searching that, oh gosh, you know,
Yes.
I didn't go through all of them, but.
bottom shelf at my Publix is the unsweetened organic applesauce. It is. It's always bottom
And
shelf.
guess what? It tastes like an apple.
Okay, I mean, I would try enjoying that rather than, you know, putting on another dressing or something like that.
Someone else last time suggested salsa.
Taco sauce. Taco sauce.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
Good, I tried it.
It was good.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried it too.
Okay, great. That's one of the things I love about coming here is you guys can work together and you've got your own tips. I don't know. I remember who said last month, were you here last month? Who said the taco sauce?
It was a gentleman over there, yeah.
It was my buddy Jesus.
It was
It might
taco
have been
sauce.
you. It might have
Taco.
been him. Yeah. Yeah, but you guys tried it and it was good. That's awesome. Travel, this is so important, guys. Did you see that thing about Delta? 800 flights canceled.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to have a plan when you travel. It is. Well, exactly. When you're on a long trip, your flights get canceled. I had one of our employees over in Inverness was traveling recently, and she got home 36 hours after she was supposed to get home due to flight delays, due to travel delays. And particularly as a diabetic, when you're flying or just traveling in general, you know, is there a meal offered on the plane? What is the meal? Do I need to carry snacks? You know, these are things that I would really encourage you to think about ahead of time and carry with you. And I would even say, you know, it is worthwhile for you to even have a snack with you every day. Every day. If your day goes as you plan every day, again, I am jealous. My days don't typically go as I plan. So if I have that container of unsweetened applesauce, or I have that, whatever it is that I carry as a snack with me, maybe some peanuts or something, that can hold me that 20 or 30 minutes till I can make a healthier choice instead of what I want right at the moment, it will make a difference for you too. And then here are some things to think about before you travel. Particularly long trips, immunizations. We don't always think about this. I'm going to make a plug right here, guys. In April, my grandfather, who was diabetic, passed away. He passed away from pneumonia. If you don't think every single day, I think, did I ask him if he'd had a pneumonia shot? It could have made a difference for him. So if you are here today, I'm going to ask you, have you had a pneumonia shot? And if you hadn't, would you consider getting one just for me? Obviously, it's not going to make any difference in my life, but it might for your grandkids. Consider getting a pneumonia shot. Consider any of those preventions that you can do. If you're traveling, particularly if you're traveling for those grandkids, think about updating your whooping cough vaccine for those kiddos. We don't even think about that. That comes with tetanus. So if you're 10 years out from your tetanus shot, think about getting tetanus added in with that. And of course, we're coming up on flu season. You don't have to wait. I know, it's here already. It's here already. With the flu shots, a lot of times we tend to think, October, November is when we do flu shots. When those signs come out in August and September, you do not have to wait till November. Come right in. Get it right away. All of these vaccines, usually they take at least 14 days to go into effect. So that's why this falls under planning. Some of them it's 30 days, so the sooner you can get vaccinations for travel, the better. For travel, particularly, this is, for syringes and insulin, it is helpful for travel to have your physician write a note. I am treating my patient, so-and-so, for diabetes. They use insulin and syringes to treat their diabetes. Now, I've never once had somebody come and tell me that they have had trouble flying with syringes, but it is helpful to have that letter explaining why you need those items. You guys all look like honest citizens, so I don't think you'll get stopped, but it is helpful to have that letter with you, as well as extra supplies. This is a great tip too. Of course, you want to carry all of your medication with you carry-on. I'm not sure our staff member that got delayed that long, I'm still not sure she has her baggage. She had to take multiple different routes home. So something to think about. What you have in your carry-on is what you need to have with you. So always have your medication with you. Twice as much medication is a great suggestion. Also, it should be labeled, which sounds obvious, but sometimes those pill boxes, they're very convenient, but for travel you may get stopped for not having labeled bottles. So try and keep it in a labeled bottle.
Elise, one thing that we do, which would be good to what you're saying, in our glove compartments, in my wallet, my makeup bag, whatever, we have a whole paper. I mean, I don't take many meds, my husband does. And, of every med he takes, what it's for, and, in case of emergency, and I don't know what he takes.
Right.
And he might not be able to tell.
Right.
But that would, if you're stopped with flying, yes.
Word perfect file. I have the file from the computer in here.
Right there.
Right.
Don't
ever
use your phone.
Huh? No, you ask her. When I travel, I have 2 or 3 thumb drives, and it's all backed up on every one of them, as well as the tablet has it and the laptop.
Got it everywhere.
I got it everywhere.
Great.
Power of attorneys, all that stuff. I had my dad, he was very sick. He finally passed away, which was good, but I had to have that stuff with me all the time, because to go to the hospital, they won't even let you in the place unless you have that paperwork.
Yeah, the healthcare service.
And CMH doesn't keep it on file.
Oh.
If he was in here today, I'd have it, they'd scan it, it goes with that entry, He goes in 2 days from now, they can't access that entry at the front end, they have to go to the back end. So you gotta go all the way around to administration to get them to release that file to them, so they have it, so, it just,
Can you tell we've done that a few
Yeah.
times?
Yeah.
So, in game, keep it
Yep.
on.
keep it, yeah, and it's, you know, they don't take up no room in there, and they're easy, you know.
And for travel too, it takes up no room to have that medication list too. I like this, I know we don't like those medical IDs, those bracelets, I know they're not attractive. Good for you, you're my first one who has ever pulled one out.
Oh,
Everyone tells me I don't like them, they're not attractive.
well, I'm not thrilled about it, but, you know, she's getting me into wearing more things.
There you go.
Well, I have it for penicillin and sulfa.
There you go.
Sulfa almost killed me, so.
And that's, you know, and the same thing if you're the diabetic, particularly for travel. Just think about it when you're making your travel plans. You may want to wear it, especially if you're traveling alone. And all these things happen. You know, you may have not had your lunch. You might have had to miss lunch. You might have had to miss snacks. Suddenly you're low blood sugar. You're not able to communicate clearly. If you've got that bracelet, that's the first thing they're going to look at, and they're going to say, "Oh, we need to test your sugar."
And you
see what-
can get nice ones. Well, my
You
husband
can.
wears the bracelet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where do
can
you get it?
Well,
They probably have them here. They'll have the
I
form
know,
up
'cause
front
they
that you
get them.
fill out,
Yes.
and you can get all sorts of,
Yes.
you know, looks
Yeah.
and, you know,
Um,
bracelet, necklace, ankle, you know, whatever.
Whalen's
Yeah.
has he has to wear stainless steel because
Yeah,
of
that's
the
what, that's,
problem.
if it wasn't stainless
he
steel, it
gets
would've been brought
his
it up,
emblem,
cause I have high
You know,
acid.
at Whalen's, you can get them, and other, you know, I don't know about other jewelry places.
Whalen's jewelry is where, if you want one of the higher quality ones, the stainless
Right.
steel is where I usually.
Well, then he
send
gets it
people
engraved as to what
Yeah.
his problems,
Yes.
problems are, which is
Now,
good.
you were talking about like when, see now, because I can change from 140 to 80 in a heartbeat, when I go golfing, because we've been out, I carry the glucose tablets now. Because I hate carrying a granola bar because they just melt in the bag,
Right.
you know, but I can pop a couple of those, you know, and drink some extra water, and within a couple of minutes, you know, so, you know, you talk about carrying stuff with you. I don't know what's in them that the body absorbs so fast, but.
Yep, those glucose tablets are about straight sugar. And last month, there's a gentleman here who said he carries jelly beans. And no joke, later on that day, I was reading in a guideline, and it's actually a legitimate thing, guys. You can carry jelly beans
Oh,
for your low.
for
your low. I'm sorry, it's in the guideline. You can carry jelly beans. So I learned something, and then I had it reaffirmed. But yes, glucose tablets. That's actually in our sick day kit.
Oh,
When we
okay.
get to the sick day
Okay.
kit, to have glucose tablets. But absolutely, if you are somebody and you know that you have low blood sugar episodes like that, make a plan and carry those tablets for you. Oh, and here we are at sick days. Yeah, look at that. And especially coming up, you know, when we hit the fall, that's when we see all the flu really start to hit, which is a little bit of a misnomer when you actually look at the map of flu trends. Florida tends to actually be about January. I'm not saying put off your flu shot, remember, but Florida really tends to be hit about January. So you have plenty of time to pull this off before January.
That's all those northerners coming down for the holidays.
You should have had their flu shots by then. Talk to your doctor about what he wants you guys to do on your sick days. Sometimes we don't sit there and think about it until, again, it's too late. This is about making a plan. So when does my doctor want to hear from me when I am sick? And if you don't have time or you're sick ahead of time, typically that high blood sugar number is going to be greater than 250 is a general guideline. And it doesn't necessarily mean the first time it's greater than 250, you know, because certainly we're going to have some things going out of range when we're sick. If you get 2 over 250 or 2 less than 70, or of course, if you just feel really terrible, give them a call and see if they will want to come in. But sometimes we've never even thought about what's the value that I should be looking for before I call my doctor. And here's another tip when we're going to talk about assembling a sick day kit. I would encourage you to jot that down and put it on a paper in the sick day kit. Why? Because today, when we say, oh, I'm going to call my doctor when I'm over 250, that makes perfect sense. when we're running a fever, when we have diarrhea, when we're throwing up, suddenly you're sitting there going, I can't remember what she said. When do I call the doctor? So jot it down and put it in your sick day kit. Or if you ask your doctor specifically, if he says, you know, when it's greater than 230, jot that down and put it in there so you know where it is and you have access to it.
Okay, you have 70, less than 70, greater than 250.
Yeah.
Okay? When I go golfing, it's not unusual for me to come home and be in the 60s after golfing. Okay? And when I first started metering it, okay, I went to one of your competitors, I won't say the name.
That's okay.
Okay, and I got there, you know, I wasn't old enough yet. I am now. I'm on Medicare now, just this month. So.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, thank you. But I got one of their better ones, okay? And I couldn't believe how much it fluctuated. So I went back to him. I said, I don't think it's working right, blah, blah, blah. And so we did a couple of tests with test strips. Yeah, okay, done. So I finally found the manufacturer of theirs, and I called the manufacturer, okay? And I think this is gonna freak a lot of people out, but if you test, the FDA certifies them to be accurate plus or minus 20%.
Wow.
So the doctor's telling me I gotta keep it below 140. I said, so what you're telling me is then 112 to 164 is okay. And they go, well, yeah. And I says, well, that's ridiculous. He said, well, we don't make the laws, we just sell them. And so I was wondering, is there some way that you have I could take it someplace, and you have a standard that says, okay, whoa, you broke
I know,
it.
it's broke this whole time. I've been perched.
Is there a set thing that if we took this and did it chemically and everything, it would come out at 100, so we can put your machine in it and find out whether it's a plus or minus machine?
Here's kind of, there's actually a lot of factors that go into whether that test strip is accurate. They make something for each meter that's called a control solution, which you've probably seen. And when you look at that control solution, you're just going to be mad because it's going to have a range on it.
Yeah, well, that's I've been there, done that.
Yeah, that's all there is.
And I've got the one I'm using now. Every time I get a new thing of 50, it's got the little sensor that's got to match it. And somehow, some way, I didn't realize it. I didn't do it. It still works, but I'm getting readings 150s, 160s for a week. And one day I put the test in. Wait a minute, that's not matching the number on the bottle. And I looked in the box, and there was the new one. I put it in, and immediately come down almost 30 points. So, okay, so there's
Well,
no way.
he has a meter, guys, that requires a code. A lot of meters now don't require a code, so if that is confusing to you, he has a meter where there's a code on his test strip, and it must match the code on his machine.
Yeah.
And that code changes with every bottle. So if that's not familiar to you on your meter, you have what's called a no code. But yes, even the control solution
And I have
bottle
both
will
ways.
say,
But that's why I got that one, because I thought, well, at least, hopefully, they match the test head to the strips, so they're at least closer matched.
Well, what my husband does, but I'm not diabetic,
Yeah.
he is, but I don't know what kind of machine he has or whatever, but he'll take his sugar before he goes to have his blood work done. And he always matches. His
Well,
machine will say what
Mine
they're
does it.
saying.
Well, see, I used to
I know,
do that,
yes.
but when I go and get it, they're saying, well, no, when you have the CBC done, the A1A is an average over 90 days,
Yeah.
because what they're reading lives in your blood for 90 days.
Right.
So it marks today, and tomorrow will mark the new cells tomorrow. So
That's
they can do that, and the test strips don't do that. They're testing a different thing in the blood.
Well, yeah.
So because I used to do that, and it was nowhere near it. So that's why I was just wondering, if there was some place or something you could do to.
No, great
Yeah.
question, but the answer is no.
Okay.
Here's what I would say to maybe reassure you. One, look for trends.
Well, yeah, that's basically what.
Yeah, that's what you can
Yeah.
do. Look for trends. And when they say, this is the allowable range, keep in mind that's the allowable range. If it's quite likely it's much actually tighter than that, realistically speaking. And then with those low blood sugar numbers, it's really gonna be, you know, kind of how you feel. Usually.
Oh no,
anyone-
I'm like
oh,
this.
You've got the
Oh
symptoms.
yeah, I
Okay.
like that. I'm
Okay.
getting full. She could, when we're out, she can sit here. She'll give me a here, take this. I go, oh, okay, because she can see by
Right.
my walk has changed or,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
whatever.
Mentally, you're
That's
probably.
really
Yep.
important, because
Right.
I notice that in my husband too, especially if it goes high, I can
You
tell.
can see it.
what
Well,
it
see,
is.
high
Like,
doesn't
you
seem
need
to
go
bother
do
me.
your
Mine doesn't
insulin.
bother me, it's the
Low.
low.
Close to
Yeah,
your
oh, the low
Yeah.
definitely bothers
Right.
him, but I can, his whole demeanor changes when it's high.
It's getting the person to recognize that that's what it is.
See it.
But we frequently can say, you're not right, and they haven't gotten to that
Are you,
point yet.
are you saying generally if you're sick, your blood sugar tends to go up higher or not?
Okay, so
necessarily?
when you are sick, your body is really kind of going into overdrive. It's releasing all these different hormones that it's not normally releasing, like cortisol. Believe it or not, it's usually releasing some adrenaline too. These other hormones that your body is releasing to combat you being sick is driving your blood sugar up. Top that off with a lot of times if we go in with a respiratory infection, a lot of times they'll give you prednisone to treat that respiratory infection. That'll drive it up. Sometimes you won't see that with a short course, you won't see that bump, but sometimes you'll even see even that short course of prednisone will bump your blood sugar up. So yes, it is directly related to being sick. And it's very confusing to people because you may say, I'm not eating and my blood sugar is still,
Oh, your body's loaded with sugar.
it's going out of control, trying to combat you being
That's what we want to get rid of.